In 1911, miners digging in a remote Nevada cave stumbled upon a discovery that should have rewritten human history. A mass grave of 3-meter-tall humanoids with thick red hair. But instead of ending up in museums, these skeletons vanished into hidden archives. What if the terrifying monsters from our ancient fairy tales were absolutely real and deliberately erased from the history books? The legends were real. The horrifying discovery in Nevada's Lovelock cave was no surprise to the local Paiute Native Americans. For generations, their elders had passed down dark legends about the Si-Te-Cah, a vicious race of red-haired giants who arrived from the ocean. According to these tribes, the giants did not view ordinary humans as equals or younger siblings. They viewed us as food. A brutal war of survival waged on for centuries between humanity and these giants. Ultimately, a united coalition of tribes managed to corner the last of these terrifying monsters inside Lovelock Cave, burying the entrance with burning brush and roasting them alive. But if these bones were undeniably real, why are they absent from the grand halls of the Museum of Natural History? This brings us to a grand academic conspiracy whispered about in closed circles. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, reputable newspapers across America, including the New York Times, frequently ran headlines about 3-meter-tall warriors and giant skeletons found from the mounds of Ohio to the caves of Nevada. However, whenever these monumental discoveries occurred, representatives from powerful scientific institutions, most notably the Smithsonian, would quickly arrive to confiscate the artifacts. Once taken, these incredible finds disappeared forever. The Cyclopean Empire. Before they were bulldozed, these earthworks stood as evidence of a forgotten empire. When the first waves of white settlers pushed into the Ohio and Mississippi River valleys, they did not find pristine, untouched nature. They found the ruins of a cyclopean civilization. The earth was intricately carved with thousands of artificial geometric complexes, perfect circles, flawless octagons, and massive walls stretching for miles, the sheer scale of which could only be fully appreciated from the sky. At a famous site in Newark, Ohio, an enormous octagon is connected to a perfect circle via a long corridor, a structure so massive that the Great Pyramid of Giza could easily fit inside it with room to spare. Even more astonishing, these monuments were perfectly aligned with the complex 18.5-year lunar cycle. Local Native American tribes openly admitted to baffled settlers that these structures were the work of ancient sorcerers and warriors who lived there long before them. Excavations of these mounds by 19th century historians revealed bodies wrapped in highly complex woven fabrics, adorned with thousands of freshwater pearls and heavy copper armor. The copper was mined over 1,000 kilometers away near the Great Lakes, proving the existence of an advanced trade and logistics network. These beings, later dubbed the Adena and Hopewell cultures, possessed abnormally thick skulls with high vaults and sloped foreheads, indicating a brain capacity 30% to 40% larger than modern humans. Even Abraham Lincoln, gazing at Niagara Falls in 1848, wrote in his notes about the extinct race of giants whose bones filled the mounds of America, noting that their eyes once looked upon the falls just as ours do today. The grand cover-up mainstream science had rigidly adopted the doctrine of linear human evolution, leaving no room for a race of giants. John Wesley Powell, the powerful director of the Bureau of Ethnology, allegedly issued an unspoken directive to destroy or hide any artifacts that contradicted the official timeline of how America was populated. Anything that didn't fit the established narrative was quickly dismissed as a hoax, a misidentification, or a rare biological disease. Following the American Civil War, the U.S. government desperately needed a new ideological framework known as manifest destiny. They had to politically justify that the continent was vast and empty, inhabited only by primitive nomads who could be morally displaced by civilized colonizers. Acknowledging that a highly advanced ancient civilization of giant builders had once ruled the land would have completely shattered this convenient worldview. Consequently, the Smithsonian's annual reports began featuring bizarre excuses collections lost during train transport, sudden warehouse fires, or claims that the bones simply turned to dust upon contact with the air. Thousands of unique skeletons were permanently scrubbed from inventory books, and the ancient mounds were ruthlessly bulldozed to make way for highways and endless cornfields. Biological horror. Anatomy of an apex predator. However, the anatomy of these giants shifted this historical mystery into a realm of pure biological horror. Excavation reports consistently documented two terrifying anomalies: polydontia, extra teeth, and polydactyly, 6 fingers and toes. Reports from Lovelock Cave to the mounds of Florida described jaws that were not merely large but engineered like a shark's maw. Instead of a single parabolic row of 32 teeth, these creatures possessed 2 solid, tightly packed parallel rows of sharp, massive teeth. Biology tells us that teeth are a direct reflection of an organism's diet. Herbivores need flat molars for grinding, while omnivores like humans require a mixed set. A double row of massive teeth anchored to a robust square jaw serves only one evolutionary purpose: extreme violence. It is the ultimate biological tool for gripping actively resisting prey, tearing through tough tendons and most horrifyingly crushing large bones to suck out the marrow. This anatomical evidence turns Native American tales of cannibals into chilling scientific fact. Furthermore, their 6-fingered hands were not useless genetic deformities but fully functional appendages with joints and muscles, offering an unbreakable grip on weapons. The Bible itself mentions a giant from Gath with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. Their bones were incredibly dense and heavy, resembling carved ivory rather than the brittle bones associated with the human medical condition of gigantism. They were not gentle giants. They were apex predators, a biological killing machine at the absolute top of the food chain. The science of titans. Earth as a hyperbaric chamber. How did such massive creatures survive, given that modern physics and the square cube law dictate their hearts would fail and their bones would splinter? The answer lies in the ancient atmosphere of our planet. Paleobiologists and physicists theorize that during the era of megafauna, Earth acted as a giant hyperbaric chamber. Air bubbles trapped in prehistoric amber reveal that oxygen levels were once as high as 30% to 35%, and atmospheric pressure was up to twice as high as it is today. In this dense atmosphere, oxygen instantly saturated the blood with every breath, completely removing the strain on a massive cardiovascular system. This allowed towering creatures to heal rapidly, resist fatigue, and potentially live for centuries, as ancient texts like the Bible and Sumerian records suggest. This thick air cushion is also the only reason massive flying reptiles like the Quetzalcoatlus or dragonflies with 70-centimeter wingspans could take flight and breathe. Some theories even propose the existence of a vapor canopy in the upper atmosphere, which created a global greenhouse effect and shielded terrestrial DNA from cosmic radiation, allowing giants to thrive as nature's masterpiece, the fall of the gods. But this biological paradise ended in a single apocalyptic day. Whether through a meteor strike, a great flood, or a pole shift, the vapor canopy collapsed, atmospheric pressure plummeted, and oxygen levels crashed. Instantly, the world turned into a gas chamber for the giants. Deprived of the dense air, their hearts began to fail and gravity became their executioner. According to the square cube law, a being 3 times our height weighs 27 times more, yet its bone strength only increases 9-fold. In our modern gravity, a titan's femur would explode into shrapnel under its own fleshy weight if it tried to stand. Furthermore, thermodynamics doomed them, generating 27 times more heat but possessing insufficient skin surface area to cool down. Any physical exertion would literally boil them alive from the inside out. Ancient myths describe giants as slow, irritable, and prone to rage, a direct result of their brains starving for oxygen while their bodies burned in a perpetual fever. The tragic case of Robert Wadlow, the tallest man in modern history, 2.72 meters, perfectly illustrates this. He died young due to failing circulation, unable to support his own skeletal weight. Earth itself had turned against the giants, the Uncanny Valley, and human survival. Before this cataclysm, when they were in their prime, these 10 to 12 meter tall beings built the megalithic wonders of the world. At the Temple of Jupiter in Lebanon, 800-ton stone blocks serve as the foundation, with a 1,000-ton block abandoned in a nearby quarry. No Roman technology could move this, and even modern cranes would snap. But for a giant, a 1,000-ton rock was merely a brick. Did they all die out? In 2002, an American Special Forces patrol in a remote Afghan cave allegedly encountered a 4-meter-tall red-haired giant with double rows of teeth. The beast impaled a soldier before being killed by a shot to the eye, and the government immediately classified the body. This implies that some giants may have retreated into deep underground caverns, devolving into monstrous cave dwellers. How did small, weak humans inherit the Earth? We won through biological efficiency. When the atmosphere crashed, the giants required a staggering 50,000 calories a day to survive, making them vulnerable. Humans, needing far less food and breeding rapidly, used swarm tactics. Like ants swarming a wounded elephant, our ancestors exhausted them, drove them into swamps, and burned them in caves. Yet the trauma of this ancient war is permanently encoded in our DNA. Scientists call it the Uncanny Valley effect, that visceral, primal dread we feel when we see mannequins or humanoid figures with distorted proportions. Evolution teaches us that fear is a survival mechanism, We fear the dark because of hidden predators. The Uncanny Valley is our genetic alarm system, a haunting memory from an era when humanity was not the master of the world, but prey. Today, our small stature is our armor against gravity. But deep within our psychology lies the ancient terror of the giant, man-eating gods who ruled before us and who might still be sleeping deep beneath the earth, waiting for their time to come again.